Nay, it's your turn on the floor now, so, I tried to ease it as much as I could for you, Nate, so if you get burned, don't blame me.
Yeah, maybe John just didn't see me come in, but I think he did. So good evening, Castro Valley Democrats. It's not my first time coming to you guys. Hopefully it won't be my last time. Apologize, I missed your holiday party. I think I was out of town at another engagement. But I think most of you know me. I represent Castro Valley on the Board of Supervisors. It's been almost 20 years now. Running for re-election. Still got plenty of excitement and passion for public service. Still very much interested in being accessible, getting out talking to my constituents, and if I can't get there, I have my office and staff there. Trying to be a little bit more high energy this evening, but I started this morning for supervisors. Got a lot of meetings today, 9 mayors on housing and homelessness. I was up at the Central Committee, and now I'm here, so I'm running on fumes
So
here.
where's the strong coffee? Give me a minute.
That's right, running on fumes. But, obviously, one of the top issues is obviously housing and homelessness and trying to address that crisis. And then, working with the cannabis industry and small local emerging businesses, that continues to be, a strong passion of mine. Obviously, some of you happen to be in my age bracket, an older adult, and seniors have been a passion of mine since 1986 when I started the United Seniors of Oakland and Alameda County, working to improve the quality of life for older adults in this county. The county's got a comprehensive plan that looks at trying to ensure that seniors can age gracefully and with dignity, and it just continues to be a passion. Even though I now have 2 grandkids, 1, 3, and 1, 1 and a half. I got a lot of passion for them, but seniors still my passion. So that continues a big issue and concern of mine. And as I said, delivering service. In Oakland, we've got a pilot going, and the pilot is just demonstrative of the entire issue around illegal dumping, and we're working to try to bring solutions to that throughout the state, and I've talked to the Assemblyman about that as well. So just, the issues just keep coming. You guys know Bob. Bob continues to work for me on a part-time basis as a retired annuitant, and we're just here to continue to try to bring, well, not try, but to ensure that services are being delivered to you. Most of you know where my office is, right down the street. Try to continue to be engaged with cutting-edge issues. I mean, in terms of Castro Valley, a lot of good things have happened in Castro Valley. I think probably the big thing that's happening is another month or so, we'll be opening up the Castro Valley Marketplace. And I think that's going to be a destination point for Castro Valley. I mean, that's going to be a game changer. And there's a lot of other things that we've done over the years, and there's more to be done in order to continue to make Castro Valley the community that you all enjoy and want to continue to live in and thrive in. So with that, I mean, that's kind of a big picture. I'm here to answer questions you might have, and we'll go from there.
I've got one question. The old library.
Oh, yes, right.
Is there anything in the?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. In fact, we talked about the old library today. The old Castro Valley Library. The veterans have been wanting to take that and make it into a veterans center, veterans facility. It's been difficult and challenging to kind of marshal that through the county bureaucracy, but on February 25th, finally, it'll come to the Board of Supervisors, so the board can authorize our staff to begin to have negotiations with the veterans organization to make that a veterans facility there. Linda's been working on that. I mean, it's been a lot of work. I wish we could have made it happen sooner, but it's moving on. But even then, with the board directing the staff, because I know that will happen, to start negotiations with an organized entity that the veterans have, there's still more processes to be handled. And I think there might even be a possibility that HARD might enter the picture too, and maybe partner with the veterans, and that might be of interest as well.
But Nate, can you involve Bob in it, because he's been a
Oh, yeah,
great,
Bob, oh, yeah.
a great advocate for that.
Oh,
all
yeah,
the way
Bob,
along.
yeah, Bob's, he
He's
staffs
great.
that.
He's
Oh,
great,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
Bob staffs.
There's a meeting with HARD we've scheduled now for February 7th, I believe it is, with the veterans, and I'll be there, Linda will be there.
Oh, wow.
And we'll have a negotiation with HARD to see what they're interested in, and I think things will work out pretty well.
Yeah,
Good. Wonderful.
yeah, so that's gonna come to.
Richard, you had your hand up.
Question, could you address this business of the homeowners being billed to clean up the
Oh.
contaminant behind?
Yeah, no, I just heard about that today, and I think that's because, I think the state is billing the homeowners. That's what we were told, because I was just hearing about that today. It's not the county, I think it's the state billing the homeowners for clean, you know, Caltrans billing, this HOA or the homeowners for having to deal with this cleanup. I don't know if somebody else has more information about that, but that's what I just heard that today, and I didn't even know that was occurring.
We actually have a call into Caltrans to figure out what's going on,
Okay.
so we'll get some clarity.
Yeah.
Great.
Walsh Management, they don't want to have to pay it themselves, so they're passing it on to the homeowners. And Walsh Management probably was the ones really responsible for it, because they knew about it long before the cleanup happened. And they should have been doing something about it.
Wonderful. Have you, Peter?
I have a question for you, Nate, about, I've seen a lot about the new navigation center and the tiny homes project that's First Press, and now Eden Housing is talking about some housing. But I haven't seen anything locally about, any programs. Those are all rental or temporary programs. Is there anything about starter homes or any projects that are happening about people that are maybe, working class home ownership to foster some type of long-term commitment to communities? Because 30, 40 years ago, people would buy a starter home that'd be 900,000, 1,200 square feet, and now what I see being built for those people is rental units. There's nothing that's even condo or townhouses or something that will get them to commit to an area that are gonna stay here, because home ownership is critical for neighborhoods.
Yes, well, years ago, A1 passed, almost $600 billion for both home ownership and rentals. And to date, about 2,400, almost 2,500 affordable housing units have been developed. Now, this is not just here, but throughout the entire county as a result of the A1 monies. And all of that isn't home ownership, some of it is rental, but it is affordable throughout the county. And there's additional funding that can be utilized towards that. Out here in Castro Valley, I think at the moment, there aren't any projects, other than maybe Ruby Meadows, potentially, that are on track for that. Ultimately, if the trailer park down here on Norbridge, if that gets appropriately resolved, because the staff has a relocation plan for the tenants that are there, in fact, only one is left. If that gets resolved, then the owners of that property, they want to build housing there, and we'll require some of that to be affordable. I'm sure some of it's at market rate, and I think you're going to see the skyline change too. It's just not going to be 1 or 2 stories. So I'll have to go through the map, but I think you'll see some development there, and then ultimately, when that development happens, that'll also trigger the Rite Aid across the street. Because I think that ultimately, those property owners of Rite Aid will then be at a place where they'll want to take that, have Rite Aid move out, and use that property as a location for development. So possibly we would have commercial and then more home ownership on that site. So as far as those are the 2 promising sites. And then there's also the possibility, and I don't know much about this just yet, but the old lumberyard on Norbridge. We're looking finally to we're not going to deal with Caltrans any longer on the off-ramp at Strobridge. We're looking to try to work with Public Works, and the MAC is involved with that, trying to make that 2-way so that we can potentially do some development at that. I've had some indications that that's another prime site for some possible development here in Castro Valley in the future. So those are some locations. And then other than that, I know tomorrow, in fact, I have a meeting with about 55 folks, 60 folks or so, because we're working with Oakland Unified School District. They have a lot of surplus property, to see how we can use some of their surplus property to build teacher housing and worker appropriate housing and maybe student housing, et cetera. So we have a big meeting to discuss that tomorrow. Now that's in Oakland, but still anything we can do to provide more housing in Alameda County and throughout the Bay Area that's affordable is going to be in the right direction. And with First Pres, and if we're able to make something happen like with Oakland Unified, those can be models that we can duplicate in other places. So that's some of the thinking at the moment.
I talked to the minister at First Pres, and they're talking about putting in possibly 199 units, and 25% of it is going to be set aside for homeless veterans.
Yeah, that's another location too.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's another location, yeah.
So one of the things that I learned in, now about running for the school board and stuff in November is that the enrollment in Castro Valley Unified is going down. And, so I'm, of course, hypothesizing why that's happening. Some of it, I think, is because millennials are having less kids because they still owe bank loans and they can't buy a house and those sorts of things. But the other thing is that young families can afford to move in here.
Right.
And so, of course, a lot of this, housing that we need should be for young families with kids, too, okay? Otherwise, the enrollment will keep going down in Castro Valley Unified and will keep aging.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose track, though, the question that Peter discussed was home ownership, not just rentals.
Right.
Because then, when you have a rental, all you've done is designated that that person will be a renter for the rest of their life.
Right, right.
So we're looking at
Home
some-
ownership,
Home
yes.
ownership, even if it's a condo, that somewhere starts, because most of us sitting in this room started out that way. And, you build your equity and then you can go into something else. So that's kind of the message that we want to maintain out there, that it can't be just all rentals.
It can't be just all
Yeah.
Of course.
Sam, you had your hand at the,
No, I was just gonna say, I'm a maternity nurse, and women are, you're right about not being those 4 children. They're older now, having their first kids in their late 30s, so enrollment in the school is probably definitely a decline.
I heard everywhere in Alameda County, except for Fremont, that's building like crazy. They're building a lot of units out there, so they're actually having their enrollment skyrocket.
But keep in mind, even though housing's pricey, when people think about Castro Valley, they still find it to be affordable.
oh, yeah.
Because I still hear people moving into Castro Valley, when they compare with other locations in the school district and other things, we still are located in these. So, but yeah, your Pete's right, we've got to come up with more plans to see how we can provide more owner-occupied housing here as well as throughout the entire Bay Area.
Can't the board of supervisors, like you've talked about different towns, I worked with a group that was working when John was, when he had to leave his trailer court. And I forget, I don't know, he knows how many people had moved out of your court. They were forced out of their trailer court, all kinds of reasons. And I drove through there and took pictures, and now they're putting in modular houses. And because they put them up on a foundation, they call them,
There's all kinds of code violations going on there.
and no, I worked with this group for a couple of years, and after he moved out, we kept trying to get some, we'll see, San Leandro, it's in San Leandro, right along the freeway, and they have no rent control. We worked with their supervisors. But it seems to me that something countywide could have stopped those owners from making people in trailers homeless, a bunch of them, and putting in modular houses, a bunch of modular houses. And they said they weren't gonna do that, but they did.
And where, this is in San Leandro?
Right.
Yeah, there's about 20 what they call modulars in there now. I would say 75% of the dwellings are modular now, big houses.
Yeah.
Well, they doubled their rents in the trailers,
Right.
and there's no statewide rent control on trailer parks.
Right.
That was the problem.
Right, 'cause, yeah, RV parks, trailer parks, they're controlled by a whole different set of
Yeah.
state laws. Yeah.
Can you, in any way, give us a breakdown what's going on with rent control?
Rent control?
Yeah, in the
Well,
incorporated and unincorporated areas?
well, first of all, I think there are other ways of handling the issue of tenant protections and not necessarily going down the road of rent control. I just want to say that and be transparent about that. I think there's, we can look at just cause, we can look at in lieu fees, we can look at inclusionary zoning, we can look at housing trust funds. I mean, there's a whole, ABAG has a whole menu of options that can be looked at, and those options can be, they're not mutually exclusive. So in the unincorporated area, we're working with the San Francisco Foundation, and there'll be a fellow, research fellow, who's being hired, that's going to be working with our housing and community development department to come up with strategies, working with both the tenants and landlords, to come up with appropriate strategies so we can have tenant protections in place, because the issue is we want to stop displacement. We want to stop people from being evicted unjustly, that sort of thing. So in terms of rent control, I don't know if we're going to land on that square or that circle, but I do think we'll come in place with some appropriate measures to protect tenants.
Yeah, well, anything that will keep landlords from coming in and buying property simply to increase, excuse me, increase the rents to the point where it forces people out so they can develop and make a killing by the harm they're doing to the tenants.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's strategies like maybe buying property, the government could buy additional property now. That's something that is being done in other jurisdictions. There can be incentives so that landlords are not predisposed to go down that road of jacking up rents. And, the state has imposed a new law that caps how much can be raised by a landlord on his or her property with that new state law. So that's in place. And I know through the homeless committee or commission or whatever that the governor put together, they're looking at a constitutional amendment that would mandate that local jurisdictions do more to prevent homelessness and do it in a manner that puts the responsibilities that the city has certain responsibilities, the counties have certain responsibilities, the state has certain responsibilities. That potentially might be on the ballot as a constitutional amendment this fall. So I think there are a number of approaches that are being looked at, and I mean, a lot of times folks don't want me to kind of be as honest as I should, and I'm just kind of looking at me. But I know I didn't support the repeal of Costa-Hawkins. I thought it should be reformed but not repealed. So, I just want you to know where your supervisor's coming from. I thought there should be appropriate reforms of Costa-Hawkins, but I didn't think it should be repealed. And maybe if it had been a ballot measure to reform it as opposed to repealing it, it might have gotten passed. Because that was a statewide ballot measure. Sorry. She's gonna call me up later on and text me, why'd you do that?
Well, I think it's
So
obvious
get it all
anybody
out on
who's
the
looking
table
at
now,
it
Linda.
very closely, that what happened in San Leandro there at that trailer park was blatant
Harassment.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And there's things, I mean, that can be, and still a lot of the issues are local issues, and land use is controlled locally, and that's something that cities and counties try to maintain that authority. So it was just unfortunate the way that happened in San Leandro. I don't know when it happened or under whose watch it happened, but it seems like
And I've heard that people are talking about the such a shortage of housing and affordable, that they were thinking of approving more people to have backyard in-law units
Oh,
or
yeah.
cottages
It's been
approved.
Oh, that's been
Yeah.
approved. Yeah.
That's already approved.
Yeah, that's a statewide, yeah, that happened a couple years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
ADUs, accessory dwelling units,
Yeah.
that's been approved, yeah.
Yeah.
To try to produce more housing. I think
Right.
we're gonna find, I mean, with that and also with, more density and some of the other laws that are in place that the state is enacted, there are gonna be certain requirements that, we're gonna have to fulfill, just to try to accommodate the growing population and the need to have people hopefully working closer to where they live and trying to reduce the commute and not sacrificing, you know, the quality of life, but
Right.
getting more housing stock.
Well, I know like the permits and things can be very expensive. You know, if somebody's willing to do that and renting for a pretty low price, is there any supplemental money for the person who's gonna do that?
Well, I think at this point, the funding that I know we have available through the county, if there's a tenant who needs help with his or her rent, we've got rental subsidies, we've got funding to work on rapid rehabilitation, you know, rehab, that sort of thing. And then we even have funding for first-time home buyers, that's part of the Measure A funds. There might be funding that can be utilized for accessory dwelling units to, you know, you're gonna build something in your backyard or convert your garage, or, you know, I think there's funding for that. I mean, somebody, when I told somebody that, you know, we had 600 million, she said that's a lot of money. It's really not a lot of money. That's been leveraged to get over $1 billion, but still, in the grand scheme of things, it's still not a lot of money. We need to provide more housing, increase the supply of housing. There's a jobs housing imbalance. There's more jobs than there's housing in terms of people. And then try to build housing much more rapidly and remove those barriers to the building of housing.
I just
Peter,
want,
can you, so we need to move this along, you've got a question?
I was just
Peter?
gonna make a quick statement. Carolina can probably answer this better, but I believe that Assemblymember Quirk was involved in the ADU legislation.
Yeah, Senator Whitekowski actually passed some legislation that we were supportive of the last legislative cycle that the governor signed. So it streamlines the ADU process, so the idea is it will save homeowners money because they won't have to go through lengthy appeals processes and all, you know, pay staff time at the city level to actually get their ADUs approved. So that should result in more, and already actually we're seeing more ADUs being built in our district. So yes, definitely, I would check in with the city of Oakland and see, you know, how that process is being streamlined.
And Peter, the Castro Valley map also has some parameters around the size and the, you
And
know,
the
there's
setbacks,
already-
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I thank you for giving me a chance to
Thank you,
come and
Dave.
talk and answer questions. And I got the support of the party and Organized Labor and Democratic Club, so I'd really be disappointed if I didn't get the support of the Castro Valley Democratic Club.
All right, thanks.